Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you? Hi, my name is Nick, and I'm a behavior nerd. Or am I? Who are you? All your questions will be answered by the end of this video. Stay tuned. Let's start by looking at a few ways that people define themselves. Can you relate to any of them? Maybe it's by your career path. Are you a doctor, lawyer, musician? Maybe it's by roles that you have taken. Are you a helper, father, partier, a bottom? Maybe you define yourself the same way others define you. Are you bipolar, autistic, a Leo, a loser? Or maybe you have no idea at all who you are. This question has troubled countless people. It often comes up when you're facing changes in life and others are questioning if what you're doing lines up with who you really are, if what you've previously identified as is no longer as useful or relatable, or if you're unsure of where to go next on your journey of self-discovery. Is there an answer? Maybe. Let's start from the beginning. You are a biological system. Your conception all started with just a wee little sperm and an egg. They have a party and voila, you're beginning to form. That was you. At this point, you are a single-celled parasite searching for nutrients. Luckily, mama provided. Your DNA programmed you to do a few different things: acquire nutrients and replicate cells to mutate. Even as a little blastocyst, we can apply the principles of behavior. Those nutrients were highly reinforcing for parasitic leaching behavior because it gave you the tools to grow larger. With each cell replication, you became a more viable life form, and life most often has a pre-programmed will to survive. This didn't require any thought or consciousness. I mean, we're talking about before you even had a brain. As you continue to develop and your organs started to form, you gain more sensing ability. Little blastocyst you could only sense necessary connections to your mother, but as you mutated, more of your senses started to emerge, such as the ones you're familiar with using daily. Your DNA started to build the structure, and eventually you became a fully developed human being and got birth. The world as you knew it changed. The warmth of mommy's uterus was no longer present, but the light of the world was seen, and those senses now got more candy to feast on. And it's scary! What the hell, man? I used to have a direct line to unlimited food, the comfiest spot I've ever experienced, floating inside a globe of fluid and warm flesh, and now I'm cold, there's all this weird shit everywhere, and the people around me are both frantic and excited? I'm gonna cry! Loudly! Fuck this! Give me warmth and food! You screamed, and warmth and food was provided. Hell yeah, let's do this shit all the time. And thus begins the process of learning to survive in this cruel world. You have evolved from parasite to ape, and more importantly is that you learn something useful. Crying gives you food and warmth. This learning is burned into the brain because it's functional to get what you need to survive. And maybe later on, it will get you the things that are just kind of nice to have too, like constant snuggles. Each step of the way, you are different than before. Is this who you are? A crying dependent ape who demands food and cuddles? Well, some of you might be. Just kidding. At this point in life though, absolutely. Newborns can't really do much else. Is this all you'll ever be? Well, I hope not. There's a lot of learning to do for a young ape in this world. Let's recap what just happened. You were born a biological being that has certain sensing ability. From the initial merging of sperm and egg, you started engaging in behavior, and it resulted in favorable outcomes. Reinforcement. Your DNA programmed you to crave nutrients and find ways to get them. Sucking out and receiving nutrients made these behaviors occur at an even faster rate. This changed who you are, both physically by growing larger and behaviorally by doing this faster. That's reinforcement. Confused about reinforcement? Check out our video, Why Anyone Does Anything, to get the rundown. Next, when you cried upon first entering the world, you learned shortly afterwards that crying is the way to get warmth and food. This again changed who you are. Because of how awesome it was to get snugs and a nipple to latch onto, this relationship between crying and food was burned into your brain, creating this new neural connection. In fact, every interaction that you ever had and will have from here on forward will alter brain synapses and change physically who you are. Each day, hell, even each moment, who you are as a person changes. The accumulation of all these relationships is called a behavioral history. It is the input of everything you have ever done, the context of those behaviors, what has resulted from all of those actions, and how these things affect what you are going to do in the future. In general, when behavior results in desirable outcomes, we do them more frequently, and when our behavior results in undesirable outcomes, we do those behaviors less frequently. Obviously, it's way more complex than that, but check out some of our other videos for the bigger picture. Imagine your behavioral history is like a massive canvas getting painted over a lifespan. When you get this canvas, it already has some themes and structures drawn over it, and they're in thick lines without a ton of vibrancy. The world sees some of your structure, in other words, some of your DNA programmed behavior, and is given the fattest paintbrush to paint along with it or react to it onto your canvas. As you age, the paintbrush gets relatively thinner, representing the general reduction of impact that each passing experience can have on who you are. During some periods of life, the painting gets extra focus on one corner, which may appear magnificent. Sometimes a thicker brush splats something amazing or terrible all over it, but for the most part, the brushes are getting smaller, and every stroke or splash of paint is covering less of the canvas. Despite the impact of these intrusive strokes, the paint ain't leaving the canvas. Maybe you can work to blend it into something beautiful. Every day, there are billions of marks of paint added onto the canvas. It's still recognizable as the same canvas, but it's a different painting every day in every moment. What you see today is not what you see tomorrow. You are the canvas. You are an accumulation of your experiences thrown into your biological system. Who you are is the forever unfinished product of the world painting on your canvas. So what are the implications of this? Despite what anyone tells you, you aren't any particular thing, you are so many things. You started out as a canvas with a bunch of loose structures and are constantly evolving into something more chaotic and beautiful with each passing moment as you continue to present your canvas to everything that you encounter. Some people are going to think your painting is amazing and appreciate the artistry behind it all, and some will dismiss it without a second thought. Some colors don't blend well, and we might be more likely to avoid people and environments that are holding those brushes. You are never the same as you are at this very moment. You were even different before clicking on this video. What if you have an idea of who you want to be, but don't know how to get there? One of the best ways to start mapping this out is by defining your values. You can think about them as themes for your painting. A value is an idea or principle that you can use to guide and reflect upon your actions. It's not necessarily obtainable like a goal, but you can evaluate your actions and how well they align with your values. Some examples are being courageous, adventurous, helpful, risk-taking, nurturing, or just a good friend. Your values can change over time depending on what is most important for the current you. By adhering to your values or themes, you can create a more consistent image of yourself and make a painting that is more cohesive. Some people will love it, but the most important piece is that you love it. If you find that many others around you don't love it, you may just need to show your painting to different artists with your taste. Thinking about your identity as constantly evolving helps to filter out the noise and become more accepting of who you are. More accurate understanding of who you are gives you more control over who you will become. Here are some examples of how a more explicit identity has held people back before. Can you relate to any of these? Is there an unproductive identity that you want to break out of? Let us know in the comments. One of the most common ways that people identify themselves is from their career path. I'm born to be a doctor because all of my family is. I'm a social worker because I put in all the hard work and schooling for it. I'm not good enough to be anything but a cashier at the grocery store. These things may be a part of your painting, but it certainly shouldn't be the entire thing. Your canvas is huge. When work overtakes your canvas, it leaves little room for magic to happen in the other areas. Diagnostic culture and mental illness often creates greater rigidity in one's ability to change. Believing that you are your diagnosis can perpetuate the patterns that it describes, painting your canvas with an unreasonably thick brush. It's important to detach from your diagnosis so you can focus on growth and making your painting the way you want it to be. Focus on who or what you should expose as part of the canvas to next. Maybe it's a close friend, doctor, counselor, family member, or perhaps it's the mountains, the river, or a fun song and dance. If you dislike this part of your canvas, find the right influences to alter it in a way that fits with your values. We'll be diving much further into diagnostic culture and mental health in a future episode, so make sure you're subscribed to see it. Maybe it's not your career or diagnosis holding you back, but simply an unhealthy way to describe yourself, such as always being sad, perfect, angry, or unavailable. Similar to how we might approach detachment from a diagnosis, you want to focus on what comes next instead of dwelling on past descriptions of yourself. The more you focus on who you want to be instead of who you think you are, the better the chance you have at becoming that person. If you're unsure of where to go, that's okay. Take a few steps back and design it. Start with the craziest ideas of what life can be and reel it in to become something realistic. You can do it. With the right tools, you can change the themes of your painting into something that excites you and brings you true happiness. I hope this video brings clarity and empowerment for those who want to make some serious changes to their canvas. You got this.